if I had to explain to you the absolute chaos, it is it is like 10 to 11 at night. I'm about to record Feed the Trolls, and then tomorrow morning I have to be up at like 5 a.m. because I'm going to go to Cape Town, which is a city in South Africa, for a little bit of a holiday before PGL Astana. And I say holiday, but there's work in the middle of it because I'm doing something for Rebel and Comic-Con. It's all a lot. But I'm trying to just get as much as I can done recorded. And that's why you're seeing this now, because I wanted to get a best of 10 up. So you know how I'd like to do it. Every 10 episodes of Feed the Trolls, I take like the 3-minute teasers, I smash them all together and kind of just recap the past 10 episodes. We're already on like episode 44. So this is episode 31 to 40. I'm sorry for the delay. But one of the things I wanted to say, but before we get into the episodes, which is just fun for you to like relive some of the best moments and see some of the topics we were chatting about, is I wanted to talk about, I suppose, allyship. I don't know if that's the right term, or just like support for marginalized groups in esports. I don't even know if marginalized is the right term. I see a lot of people on social media kind of use their profiles to talk a lot about how we need to support women in esports and how we need more women on broadcasts and we need more women and that's kind of the thing that gets said a lot. And there is a lot of, I got to tread carefully here. There's a lot of people within Counter-Strike and esports who talk like this. But when it comes to actually doing stuff, they don't really uplift. They don't really build. They tweet. And that's it. And I always find it funny because obviously I do Feed the Trolls with Thorin. And I've so many times I've seen people, and I've had people message me being like, oh, he's a woman hater and he's this and he's that. You know that this guy comes on this show. We're now on episode 44. That's 44 episodes. It's 44 hours of his time every week. He helps me find the guests. He finds most of the guests, to be fair, and organizes it. He comes on the show. I've offered him a share of the minuscule Google ads money I make, and he's never taken a cent. He's always said no thank you. He's helped me and introduced me to some people to see if we can sort of grow this and monetize this podcast. And every week he gives his time freely to come on the show and let me do this thing that I wanted to do. And not just him. Every single person that you see who comes on the show, gives their time freely, comes on to chat, shares it online. Those are the people that are actually uplifting women. And granted, they're only uplifting one woman, it's me. But they're still taking the time to uplift women by doing something. What is the point of all of this? I don't know. Just because someone tweets something doesn't mean they're really doing anything, I think is the point I wanted to make. And this is my little soapbox. So I've stood on it now. I want to thank all the guests. I want to thank Thorin. I love making the show. So here's to 30 more or 40 more or however this goes. Now watch all of these and enjoy, and let me know which one was your favorite episode in the comments below. Oh yes, I'm supposed to tell you that if you would like to support this channel, then please join the membership thing. I don't know enough about it other than like a couple of cool emojis. But there is memberships if you would like to financially support. Also, if you don't want to financially support, that's okay as well. Just watch the shows. That makes me happy. Now I'm seriously gone. Bye. I suppose this also bugs me about the Team Falcons narrative, and I'll go on my little rant here. As you always see everyone talking about, oh, they got unlimited money and they'll just buy this and they'll just do this. In my experience, people who have unlimited money are pretty demanding about the results they get from spending money, which is how they were able to get to make as much money as they did. They work in business. There is a return on my investment. Okay. And I will happily give you the very big investments for the very big return. And I don't think Falcons is unreasonable. I don't think that they're going to go, okay, we've done this, now win a major. But I think that there is an expectation to see improvements and growth. And the reason I say that is because if you look at what they've done, and maybe for some Counter-Strike fans, they don't know. Falcons, what they're doing in CS, they have done in other titles.
Oh, sure, yes.
But they have seen results.
Yes.
Like they are winning there. They are not investing in Counter-Strike not to win the major. That's what they want.
So basically,
right?
you think that this first season, we're billing it like, yo, don't worry. Even if this doesn't work, this is like the Yimfat Modesty waiting room lobby. Don't worry, Zonic, they'll be here soon. But you actually think if they don't, they need some results this season, though, in your world. Otherwise, maybe Zonic goes too. Or you have considered.
I think they have to. I think that they're going to need playoffs. I definitely think that I think he probably knows that there needs to be some playoff finishes because they cannot. I think maybe there would have been a little bit of grace if they hadn't crashed and burned so spectacularly last year. And it wasn't. I think if they had finished middle of the pack last year, he would have some grace. I think the fact that he hasn't means that coming into this, he will have to get some playoffs. I don't think he's going to have to win a trophy. I don't think he's going to have to win the major, but I think that if they're not performing, there's a very good chance that Sonic's head's on the chopping block. Surely you can't. I mean, it has to be like that. Also, I do think that as a team, there's going to be a lot of question marks as to why 2 years running we've had all the things to offer. Why are players not interested in coming here? There was a lot of conversation around FaZe going into the Shanghai major that they're too old now and these players are old and they should retire. But I would argue on the other side, and I think Lewis Hamilton backed this up in an interview once, if you watch Formula One, where he said, when you're young and really good, you don't listen to anyone. You think you're the shit and you know everything. And then when you start getting older and you're really good, a lot of the time, maybe you don't communicate in the way you need to because you do think that you're like, well, Flip, I've done this. I'm really good. Listen to me. But as you get older, you also start to understand that other people communicate like that. So you're less likely to be sensitive about someone losing their shit. You don't take it as personally. You're a little bit more open to going, hey, and we all know this because we're all getting older. As you get older, you're a bit more self-aware. So you can kind of go, I was a dickbag there. I played like shit. And you can admit it versus
I've got a mad one for you, Sam. Do you want to know a mad one? It's going to blow your mind that it's even the angle I'd go with. But it's actually something I learned myself as a man, which is the concept. It sounds like you'll think I've been on TikTok too long now. It's actually the concept, Sam, of love language. That actually, if you can get, I'm not even trolling, if you can understand the concept of a love language, which is the idea that in a relationship, not everyone just like overtly says, I love you, for example. Like a great example, if you don't know, would be if you're in like a family of like old school traditional parents of like second generation immigrants or something, they might never say to you, I love you, son, like a Hallmark movie. What they might do is they might just work really hard and always provide you what you need and you know, take you to, I don't know, sports all the time. So that might be their love language. So the reason why I bring it up for is because when you key into that concept that like, oh, other people have a different way of communicating what their emotional state is or what they need, that actually is a game changer because when you stop only looking via your method, you suddenly the world sort of does open up a bit. That's blowing your mind right there.
They should gift EliGE a Porsche and see if that's his love language.
Right, okay.
I was going to be like, well, Thorin, what's your love language then? If you've gone down this TikTok rabbit hole, I mean, everyone wants to know. Hull, what about like these really small teams that have absolutely no funding, whose entire well-being is going to be dependent on how it goes in these online cups?
I mean, we are lucky that we're getting, wildcard invites. I mean, that's another topic. Let's not talk about it yet, at least. So we can still get into the CCTs. But let's say we didn't have a wildcard invite. If you really want to, make a lineup from scratch, it's open qualifiers. Like there are no other options at this point. Also, it's very confusing what open qualifier means in the rankings, because you would think that it's from sports and open qualifier is literally a qualifier where everyone can just sign up. It's not that clear to me that is what it means in the rule set. But regardless, there just needs to be more open qualifiers. And the first one this year is in February. So you would literally have 0 ranked events in all of January. Then you're thrown into, a 1,000-team bracket immediately, where you could, as Thorin said, you could play a bunch of cheaters, and you would probably never get any redemption for losing.
You could also just, by the way, have a bad bracket draw, and your two teams that on LAN would be good, but you just play each other in, the round of 32, and so one of you has to get knocked out, and you can't go, but for all we know, the other side of the bracket is all the unknown teams. By the way, this actually particularly affects NIP. It's one of the reasons I wanted to invite Threat, because since they've made this new squad, and by the way, I said it earlier, I will say it again, I actually think that is the way you GM a team. You try to pick the players that can be really good, and in this particular case, I actually think the gamble was right. You could have just gone with the cynical online cop merchant people who get you straight into the tournaments, but the point is, even if you got to the LAN, they wouldn't then be that good, would they? We want the team to be like, we want Snappy calling on LAN with these players fragging out. We want all these guys in the game, right? But the issue for me is, people also don't realize, because they're starting at such a bad position in terms of points, it's not like when there was an open qualifier. If they actually were great and they just did a great job in the first couple, they could be at Canifeet sale, they could be like no, it's going to take them before they can even get to the lands, potentially a few months. Like, and that means that it's only the online cups they're playing at this point in time, right? So suddenly everything's about the online tournaments. It's not like the old days where you can get straight to a LAN and we can see a lineup fresh in that sense.
Yes, that's exactly what it's going to be for us for a couple of months now, and it's that's what I told Exist. Like, he has the final word when it comes to the roster, but obviously as a GM, I could say like, oh no, we need to have our old core or whatever. Like, we didn't have, you know, that high of a ranking. We still had high enough to get invites to CCT, but seeing as we came from probably the biggest silly season of all time, potentially.
Yep.
We could either choose to, you know, play it safe, keep the old lineup that hasn't performed, just to be in rank 60 to get invites to CCT, or we could say, okay, let's gamble a bit, take all of the best players we can at this point, put them together. I think Exist did a really good job. I think this team is actually very
looks like a LAN team already. Yeah, already looks like a LAN team.
Yeah, and I also told them, like, I am fully aware we're going to play a lot of online qualifiers. We're going to play so many matches that we will lose to teams, you know, like Cyber Choke. You will do that eventually, and then the community will be like, haha, NIP never changed the lineup all the time. That is actually all part of the plan. We're expecting the hate. We're expecting to lose against some of these
process,
teams.
Guys.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that the thing that will matter the most in the end is getting the best possible team in the end, right? I mean, depending on if they will add more or less open qualifiers. Because even though I've been very negative about Valve, I still think the idea of this ranking was to make it more open. And if they noticed it's more closed, they will change. That I am certain.
Let's just go into what we're going to see in the server now with NIP, because obviously it looks really good on paper, but I do think that there are some clashes. And I think Snappy's even spoken about this in an interview where he said, like, specifically on the CT side, they're going to have to move stuff around. So I suppose this question is two-pronged. Like, are those cause for concern, some of the role clashes? But also, two, is it more of a cause for concern because NIP has to play all these online cups? And if you don't know in Tier 2, that means you literally wake up at 9 in the morning and you start playing and you've got like 3 tournaments, you finish at 11, and that's like 5 days of your week. So there's no real time to sit down and discuss this as a team and figure out what the hell you're going to do. You kind of got to adjust on the fly while you're competing.
Yeah, I mean, all those 5-star hotels and 1 BO3 a day, that's out of the window when you play those online cups. I remember having 120 maps in like 3 months at some point. It's so crazy. And I do think the role concerns might be between zews and ashhhcs, right? They're both like this soft, kind of hard icons of maps, and they think they have to move it around a little bit, meaning that Snappy would likely move into more progressive roles of being a little bit more in the zone, when Falcons, I feel like he got kind of just booted off to play whatever was left. So I think that's a good thing. He gets his roles. But I do think I need to see, for some reason, I do think Heroic, I'm not sure how the transfer went down, right? But I think internally, Heroic was okay letting zews go. I don't think, like, he did well last year, but he didn't do what you expected of him, right? Like, I felt like TeSeS was actually the superstar in that duo last year, and he also got resulted by actually going to Falcons with the rest of the guys. And I think zews got kind of stuck last year with not really progressing. The team actually had decent results at some point, and I don't really feel like he was the driver behind it. He had some really bad maps last year. But he's that guy who's just never going to complain, which is so fucking unfortunate, like so good to have inside a team. Like, if Snappy just says, oh, yeah, I want the Deagle in this round, zews, you're just going to buy nades, he's just going to be, okay, I'll buy him. Like, I think that was the Isaac thing. The thing with Isaac, though, is just he sucked too much ass, like, killing people, he wasn't good enough. And I think zews just has a little bit of more level to that.
Yeah, that's the solution to the problem you're pointing out, Sam. It's a good and a bad angle. The good news, if you are those players with the conflict, is zews will give up whatever. He'll do whatever you want in the game. It reminds me of Messi on Vitality. They just do whatever you say. Even personality-wise, they're like that. They're not the guy who's demanding. But the bad news is that means if you are one of those players, you better perform when you get those spots, though. If you get a better spot that you want, it's time for you to perform then, because zews probably isn't the one getting fired, mate.
Welcome to another episode of Feed the Trolls. I have been wanting to do this particular topic since January this year, and for various reasons, we've been putting it off. Vilga is joining us today. We're going to be talking about women's Counter-Strike. We're going to be talking about the VRS system. We're going to be talking about Imperial Valkyries. And I had such an incredible introduction lined up, but Thorin mentioned he wanted to say something, so I've just thrown it all out of the window and I'm handing it over to him. Look at me sharing.
You can still do it just after this. What I thought I would say at the outset is this. One, I actually think most of these topics are absolute trash to discuss on the internet because people already are tribal and they're just ready to be against each other, etc. Whereas I've actually found, maybe you can watch my reflections with Miss Harvey to see this, the actual best way you can find common ground is you actually have to let people talk about their experiences and what they've, how things are from their perspective. And if you see the world through their eyes, you might actually realize there's a different angle that you haven't seen before. So what I'm going to do in this conversation is I actually know there will be some men who will come and watch this episode and they will actually hope they can like find some angle where Vilga says something they think doesn't make sense, or she's like being rude or entitled or something, and they will use that as an excuse to just dismiss all the rest. So I'm actually going to be, in a rare case, very charitable with how I interpret everything said in this episode. But she does also like to talk shit on the internet, and I'll tell you what, that's right up my wheelhouse. So I'm your Huckleberry if you want to do that too. So you choose which way this goes.
So I mean,
Exciting.
Vilga, I've worked with you. Vilga does like to talk shit, but also what I love about this is both of you are willing to come on and have this conversation, because Vilga, you have strong opinions. But I think what Thorin mentioned there is really important. You are actually willing to listen to someone else's opinion and see what they have to say. And that's possibly something that is lacking sometimes from these conversations online, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can call myself a very rational person, right? And I'm very open-minded. And sometimes when I talk trash, I understand the consequences, right? And then, for example, the trash that Thorin's talking about, like, it gained interactions exactly, right? Exactly what I wanted to, like, achieve. And, I mean, it was pretty funny. I wasn't, like, mad or anything. For me, it was more like a banter.
Okay.
A little bit of banter. There was a tweet, obviously, that went out, and we'll get into that. But let's start this conversation. Here's what happens, right? Is Imperial Valkyries, it gets announced that they're going to get to go to Blast. They've obviously moved their way up on this new Valve ranking system at the beginning of Jan. And this is when I wanted to talk about it, because the moment it got announced that they had been invited, chaos on the internet. What we do on this show is we always find a topic that everyone is talking about on HLTV or Reddit or X. And this topic has been going on, but the conversation has changed so much time and time again. And at the start of this, I'm going to be dead honest. The moment that it was announced that they had got the invites, excuse my language, but the first thing I thought is, oh, shit. And the reason I thought that was because I was like, one, I can admit I can support women's Counter-Strike, but I can also say that the Valve ranking system is deeply flawed. And I was well aware that this team was now going to have to go up against teams that are at a far higher skill level. And as a woman, it's pretty easy. I know what's going to happen is these women now represent all of us. They are all women who play Counter-Strike. And if they stuff up, we all suck and are terrible and should go back to the kitchen. That's a lot of pressure. So that was my first thoughts. But I'm curious, Vilga, when you heard they'd been invited, what were your thoughts?
Well, pretty much the same as your thoughts, to be honest. It's like, right, they're the best team in the world. Like, everyone knows it. And if I was, right, the team who got an invitation to, like, tier 1 tournament, I would call myself lucky, right? Because, like you said, it's a big flaw in the system of Valve ranking, right? That allowed to put the team that earned the high prize money in the completely different tournament, right, in the women Counter-Strike, to participate in the tier 1 tournaments. And obviously, like, it's very lucky for them. But I still think that, like, we need this kind of opportunities for the female scene, just not through the ranking.
What does Astralis do next, though? Because if they decide to make a change, they've limited themselves. I mean, they've gone through all the Danish players. I'm sure there's more, but they are kind of limited with what they can pick and choose from, Demps.
Oh my god, yeah. I don't know where they go either. If you want to stay all Danish, like you say, you are very limited. I mean, I can't think. The obvious swap to me is just get Cadian out and get an in-game leader in that can actually shoot with a rifle.
Okay, yeah, let's have a fun one. Who's the in-game leader you bring in?
Honestly, if I'm Astralis and, like, you know, we go the rest of the season and we flop the major or whatever, if Shui is still available, I say fuck it. We go English and we get Shui in and we just give it a go.
Okay.
Because, like, Cadian is so bad as an individual. Like you say, I don't think his calling is working out that well. But Yabi and Stown, and at this point the rest of Astralis are used to, like, a bit more of a chaotic and loose, maybe isn't quite the right word, but you know what I mean. It's quite heavy on the mid-roundy style, which I think Shui suits, and I think Shui could probably do better than Cadian at this point. I would just say fuck it. Like, I don't think we can stay Danish anymore. I think that ship has sailed. Like you say, you've gone through the whole Danish scene at this point, unless you're getting some unknowns, which I don't think Astralis would ever do. Like, fuck it, we just have to go English and just get a real in-game leader. And Shui is available and really good.
So
Well,
Thorin,
maybe available.
Maybe available. Maybe he's leading that weird little
Gentle
French
mates
corps.
or whatever the hell it's
What
called.
is happening there? Here's something that I suppose fans don't really know about, and I don't really know much about it, but I wonder, can Astralis actually move away from a Danish lineup? Because my understanding is a lot of their sponsorship, a lot of their money, a lot of their support comes from the fact that they're this Danish team. So suddenly if they move away from having Danish players, do they not lose a lot of the financial backing that comes with being Astralis?
I think you have to stay Danish.
Seems
core.
like it, yeah. The problem is you've built it too much into the branding of the team, essentially, haven't you? And also, to me, I think it would just be such an admission of what we've just implied, that you've just fucked over the entire Danish scene, that either nobody will join your team, or even worse, like you're in a scenario where, like, wouldn't it be a crazy admission to go, oh, I signed the 2 best Danish players from Heroic. I've still got Device, but I can't field a 5-man Danish lineup that can do anything in Counter-Strike. Like, what that would imply, you've sort of like reverse GM'd the squad from the best in the world, maybe of all time, to you can't even have 5 Danish players in the server. And then also, there's even angles that people don't even seem to appreciate, which is like, if you think of some of the potential talents you could sign, Zyphon's one, he was in your academy system years ago. That looks stupid that you're now bringing him back years later. And then the other one for me is this. That's why also they've checkmated themselves with the names on paper. The on-paper roster is why you can never make a change. Because I'll tell you, the first person I would cut tomorrow, if not Cadian, right? Cadian Fragile is just obvious. You need that to make the other pieces work. Are you going to cut down after you signed him for millions of dollars? You went through all that shit to do it. By the way, you also kicked the other person who plays his role, who's amazing, Blame F, to do so. So you're presumably not getting him back. Like, again, you've kind of checkmated yourself on this one. And then the obvious one I've always thought about this team that just shows that they've always been in a weird place the last few years is nobody even entertains the idea, can I get Carrigan from FaZe? He first of all, he founded Astralis and he is Danish. But we don't even entertain that idea because it seems so ludicrous on everyone's part. You know, it just wouldn't happen. So at this point in time, you were at some like Loki in Avengers 1 meme of like going to Snappy, and he's like, you must be in some real trouble to come and ask me. Like, but that's actually what we're at. That's where we're at. If we're going to keep it Danish at this point in time, we really are. There's no left.
I will say Russ is probably the most fitted one to be in there just from the numbers that he puts up himself, because he himself is, even with all shit going on, he's still an insane fragger.
Oh, he's still really good, yeah.
He's still like so talented. He still knows the game. He still gets going on. So even though I shit on him on Sneak and Banter, I am going to put him there as a 5th place, but for category placeholder. He's not that right now.
Okay.
I think it's bullshit. I think he can get there, so that's what's expected.
Okay.
And then I'll say it's because the rest of the fucking scene as a whole, if I'm forgetting somebody, sorry, but we need people to stand out right now. So I'm not putting Russ there as a cop-out. It's just because he's just better than everyone, and I'm not seeing too many people stand out to me. And if that's worth a damn, you decide yourselves.
Okay.
Do you think Twist has a future, though, from an IGL perspective? Do you think that this is a role he stays in? Because obviously there's always conversation about how he should move out of the IGL role because they feel like the fragging ability there.
Right? There has to be. I have to believe in some way that there's always a future. I'm going to give an example that, like, in my egomaniac way or whatever it is, Ultimate shut me up because I said he was supposed to be out, not because I'm stupid and I don't think, it's just because I see CS differently. There's many ways in which you can create a team. Kerrigan's a living proof of that. If you want to play without the op, I'm sorry, I can do it and I can get you. Like, I was able to do that once. You can replicate that shit. It's not about that. It's about the grit, what you're mentioning. It's about having that. I have to believe that. And for Russ, if I said that in an interview before, it's because some part of me somewhere believes it. Right now, I don't, because I just think he's full of himself, he's emo, and he's a dick. Fuck it, I don't give a shit. But he can get there. He can get there, and he should, because it's a waste. Because he's so fucking good. I've never seen someone so mechanical. I've never seen someone who actually has a good heart and is just fucking blind and stupid. So that's how I feel and how I think. Every time I get in here, I end up going on a rant, but it's because I feel passionate about this shit. Fuck this, right? So 5th is him. I hope he gets to it. If he doesn't, at least prove me wrong. At least the Polish guy and his team is doing something about it.
The question I want to pose now is, if we take a look at what NAVI was last year, which was this team that no one expected anything from, so much conversation around the fact that they didn't have a superstar, and yet they went on this incredible run and they looked so strong. What was it about that team at that time, Ash, that allowed them to perform the way they did in all of those tournaments?
I think first off, they had I think coach, like Blade, for me, the coach is so revolutionary with everything. Like, for example, I was just literally just thinking randomly before I came here that Mirage used to be the way it used to play in CSGO, right? And for example, middle and CT side control, what people were doing towards the end, especially Heroic, was they were Molotov behind the boxes in middle, and then they'd wait because the Molotov lasted like 8 seconds, and then Molotov again, and they knew that by the time both Molotovs died, then the top mid smoke dies, and you know middle's clear, and you can actually play without knowing middle's clear, right? And in CS2, obviously, they shortened the length of the Molotovs, and now you could also, which also was a problem because now you add those times together, 6 seconds, 6 seconds, it's only 12 seconds, and the smoke's 18 seconds. So now in theory, you could Molotov it twice, and the guy could just run out to the boxes still, right? So you couldn't go into a mid cell. Navi spent so long. I watched this over and over, and I tried to do this to my team, which didn't work. It took forever, and I binned it in the end. And what they were doing was they'd start middle, they'd Molotov, they'd break the smoke so that for extra, like an extra 1-2 seconds, no one could run to the boxes. They'd Molotov again, and then they break the smoke again. So in theory, they cleared the last 4 or 5 seconds where you couldn't get to the boxes by blowing the smoke early, and then no one could be there, and then they knew how to get it clear. And at the same time, they'd have someone dedicated. He would run to A, he'd smoke apps, and then they're going to mid setup. And the guy in window would have a set role, no matter if it was Wonderful, if it was him or whoever. They would start, they would Molotov, they'd spam, they'd throw a nade, they'd run around the smoke palace, and they'd run to middle, and they'd just do this setup over and over and over, and they had like ridiculous win rates, right? And they were the only team that were doing that, and now everyone does this, by the way. And this was middle of last year, and every single team plays this way in Mirage, right? And on T-side Ancient, I noticed as well that every T-side team has like a B player, a mid player, whatever, right? They have every position covered. But what Navi did, they had, instead of having a B player, they had like 2 cave players. So that meant that if teams normally push down the B ramp against you, you normally have to help your B player because he's isolated, the bomb's in the door, he has to go back in the door, and you're helping him all the time. What Navi can do is, because they're already so close together in middle, they've got the A guy and the mid guy taking middle, the 2 cave guys towards heaven, because they're already there, they see B push, they go, oh, okay, let's just go away then. And they rush straight through donut. They don't have this B player stuck with the bomb. And this, again, is another way that just a small tweak for them, it just meant that everything for them worked perfectly, right? And now I think they're just so studied, which is obviously a problem in itself. Yep. And I think also they were such a team that fragged by committee on T-side. I even looked at the numbers on T-side. All of them were fragging.
Yep.
What do we rate Berlin as an IGL, or do we need more time to make that call?
Here's the genius of it. It doesn't have to be that he's either secretly like doing all this or he's not doing anything. Like, first of all, he must be doing something, even if, by the way, I'll give you the obvious analogy for me. This reminds me of when people, actually, first of all, reminds me of when Huxley did have the JKS, Hunter, that super lineup where everyone used to just go give him no credit at all and go, anyone with those players would win. Like, first of all, anyone wouldn't. Like, you still have to be a competent IGL. But there is actually a style of being a coach or a manager or an in-game leader that I think is underrated, which is when you work with people who are self-directed and are really good, sometimes knowing how to get out of the way or how not to overburden them is actually the secret sauce. Like, essentially, like you are integrating what they're doing and what they're wanting to do in the round into an overall picture. So I would just say, to me, it looks like he is doing quite a sort of like loose style where people just know their jobs. People do their jobs, like as just described there. Like, it's funny, everyone raves about it when they look at the way that like the way that like fucking Frozen and EliGE like trade off each other. Like, mate, at this point in time, Spinks and Exertion are better, mate. Like, they're like unbeatable. It was even one of the things I was noticing in this final dust was like everyone else that Vitality plays. The reason why it looks like an absolute piss take when Vitality plays at the moment is even if you get a kill on them, it's like the scoreboard just instantly shows they get 2 kills back, and you're like, what the fuck? I'm never winning against them. That wasn't the case. Mouse was the only team I saw that like you could even see it was like shocking Vitality. They would get a kill, and actually Mouse would get like a couple of kills back, and like, fuck, they can actually frag with us. Like, no one else can do that right now. So to me, I actually think it's quite an interesting aspect because it looks to me like Brawler, I gotta say, unlike past examples, you can't, it's hard. I don't think anyone's going to be making like strat videos out of them. Like, oh, look at this amazing call they made here, or they were like setting them up here. Some of them really just does look like round to round calls. But at the moment, whatever sparse type of call they're doing or simple setup, it works. It's allowing these players to actually play awesome, because I do think they have 4 of the best players in the world in their roles, like in their actual roles. These are some of the best you can get. And it turns out whatever they do, like the joke in this, it absolutely is like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just leave it like this. Just see how long this works. Because right now, I'm with you, Dust. I don't even think they actually are on pit. The difference is when Vitality has those crazy win rates, they can't all really be like 70%. Some of them must be a map you're not actually that comfortable on. They just beat people. I almost think like some of that's like the other way around with Mouse. I almost am certain they are bad on a couple of maps, but they're just so good at firepower, mate. I've seen them still beat teams on those maps and get the win. So it's like no one really, I also think right now, no one really knows how to veto into them. A lot of teams have tried doing like punish picks, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah, I think the other promising thing that I've seen out of Mouse Sports as well, just to add here, is the fact that they went from getting blown out by Vitality in a best of 5 at EPL to playing them very close 0-2 in the groups of Lisbon to in the grand finals getting destroyed 0-13 in map 1 of a grand final best of 5, which has got to be like just ludicrous on the brain, to then come back and win 2 maps and put the series back in the contest. And I just think they ran out of steam once they got the train. I just don't think they were ready for it. Even I think Brolin admitted that by that point in the series, he just wasn't prepared to be able to handle what they were in at that moment in time. I mean, best of 5s rarely go 5, Matt. Let's be real. And so the fact that they did go all 5, the fact they were able to make progress against this Vitality team that no one else is seemingly able to do, I think that is a good sign in itself, that from event to event, they are figuring them out and getting a little bit better at playing against them.